Hello and welcome to the Not All There podcast. I'm your host. My name is Chad, and today we get to know a bit about me. And by a bit, I mean quite a bit. And by quite a bit, I mean a whole lot. You're going to know what makes me tick, for the most part. Today, I have a really dear friend of mine who is a therapist, and she agreed to come on. And I felt it is important to get it out there. What therapy is not a scary thing. It really isn't. Okay. Let's get the stigma off of it. Mental health is very important, and it's very important for you to go talk to somebody, whether it's a friend, somebody in your congregation, a therapist, stranger on the street. Like, it's good to get things out there that you are challenged or struggling with or have questions about. It's perfectly fine. And I'm banging the drum. Like, addiction, it is a weird thing. It's a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay. People do get mixed up and they do bad things. Addiction will take over your life and will control you, and you will find that you are making choices that you know are wrong, but you can't stop from making because what you were addicted to is controlling you. All right. It doesn't necessarily mean that person is struggling with it as a bad person. They're not. They just need compassion, but they also need to want help. They need to want that. And if you find yourself in a position where you're challenged and you're stressed, you have anxiety, you're depressed, you're having weird thoughts, whatever those might be, it's okay to reach out to somebody. It really, really is. And another thing I'm banging the drum about is having people around you who can help you in recovery, right? Because when you share what your challenges are with another person, there's a really, really great chance that not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping them too. That's the beauty of the group that I have created with all of the dearest friends that I have, is that we can be very open with one another about anything, right? And I would share something that I'm struggling with, and then I would feel better about that. And then on the backside of that, somebody would come up and be like, man, what you said really helped me out. It really helped me to get through whatever I was stuck on. And that's where therapy comes in. And through those conversations, you do most of the talking. It's like the analogy of leading a horse to water, right? They'll lead you to the water. You just have to drink it, but you will get there and you will be proud of yourself for it. So today we just start talking. And wasn't quite really sure how we were going to put this together, but eventually, and not too far into this, it turns into a full-blown therapy session between the two of us, and it's great. I just put it out there. Hey, look, that's who I am. Okay. And if by me putting it out there helps you, then awesome. That's what I want to do. So again, a trigger warning. I do discuss my trauma, not all of it, some of it, and there's some graphic detail with it. So I want you to be prepared for that, and you'll see it when it's coming. Okay. All right. Now sit back, have a listen. Okay. You're going to like this one. It's very sincere. It's very raw. It's very honest. And I hope you take something from it. All right, here we go.
Yes.
So you and I share something in common.
Okay.
And that is the Glacier National Park. It's a very important place for us.
Favorite place. Yes.
How many times have you been there?
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah, I worked there for 2 summers, and it was awesome. But that's the scene of my crime. That's where I started drinking. My first drink was in Glacier National Park, and it was with a girl. Anyway, that's quite a story.
I heard that story.
In recovery, like specifically like alcoholism or alcoholics, we kind of know like we have this white light, this magical moment, you know, when you have a drink and you're like, oh my God, this cures everything that I thought was wrong with me. And that's what it did for me. But it also turned me into a complete like wild man. And I did a lot of crazy stuff. There was something that I felt for a really long time. And I guess I still kind of feel this way a little bit, which is strange, but I didn't think I was ever going to like live very long in my life. I didn't think I was going to live to be old. So I never like saw myself as, you know, a grown adult, married with kids, you know, any stuff like that. And that started when I was really young, and, you know, some bad things happened at the hands of a relative at a really young age. And it kind of carried on for a while. And I thought that, okay, well, I'm going to die and they're going to be a part of it. And my God, they almost were a couple of times. But it's also special to me because did I ever tell you the bear story that I have about Glacier?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you don't know this?
No. So.
Okay. Did you, when you were out there, did you ever go to Iceberg Lake? Do you know what that is?
No, I didn't go to Iceberg.
Okay. So Iceberg Lake in the mountains, and it has like chunks of the glacier, which is probably not there anymore, would fall off into the lake, and it had these icebergs floating around it. It was really beautiful. It was a nice hike. It was like 3 miles in, 3 miles out. And my brother and his wife came out to visit me the second summer I was there. And he had just gotten sober. Things were kind of cool. And he wanted to go for a hike. They wanted to go for a hike. And I'm like, okay, I know the perfect place. It's Iceberg Lake. We hike in, we hike out, we'll go in, we'll look at the water, the mountains, the icebergs, and we'll have lunch, and then we'll hike back out. And my sister-in-law was like, I can't see any bears. I'm so afraid. Like, I don't want any bears. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. No, I gotcha. And then like lunch the next day with my brother, I'm like, we're definitely going to see a bear. So just heads up. So we hike in, and we get to the lake, and it's lovely. We have a really nice time. It's a beautiful day, kind of a crowded trail, and we start hiking back out. Now, the trail starts off in the woods, and then it comes along this ridge line, and it has this big kind of bend in it around like a gully. So at one point you can see from one side of the gully to the other side, you can see the trail, right? So you can see people going, and then they disappear to come around the bend. Well, as we're going back out, I'm looking across this gully, and I could see this person like running, and they're waving their arms. And I stopped, and I was like, oh shit. And my brother's like, what's going on? I'm like, I think we might have a situation. She makes her way over to us, and she's like, there's a bear in the trail, and it's coming up towards us. And my sister-in-law screams and starts running back towards the lake. And I'm like, where are you going? There's nowhere to go. It's one way in, one way. We have to go that way. And at this time, like kind of a little gathering of like 8 or 10 people had gathered. And they trained us what to do if you encounter a bear. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we got to get into a tight-knit group. Okay, single file, real close together, wave your arms, make a lot of noise, because if you don't want to startle the bear. Because we startle the bear, we're in trouble. If it hears us coming, chances are everything's going to be all right. And so they started getting into a line, and someone in the line says, well, who's going to lead the line? And this old guy steps out of the line and walks over to this boulder that's next to the trail and puts his foot up on the boulder and starts tightening his laces and looks and said, I've lived my life. I'll lead the line. Oh my God. People were like, oh my God, Norm, no, you can't. And so then my brother's like, no, man, we got it. And I was like, you bastard. So anyway, we start making our way along, and long story short, we get down, we finally see the bear. And it's like 50 feet up on this hill, and it's huge. It's huge. I don't know. It was like 600 or 700 pounds. It was a massive bear. And my brother, of course, stops to take a picture. And anyway, we make our way out. Everybody's safe. Everybody's got this crazy story. And then like 2 weeks later, a park ranger got like mauled in that same spot.
Oh, geez.
I've lived my life. I'll lead the line. It's like my mantra. I know. I know.
When we were there, we were at Grinnell Glacier.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
When we came back out, we were told that there was a bear sighting. I don't know if you know who Jack Hanna is.
I do. Yeah.
Like the Columbus Zoo.
Yeah.
and really well known around the world, super wonderful person who has since passed. But apparently he had been on that same trail the day before we were there, and he was there with his niece, and he had 2 cans of bear spray because he didn't believe in taking any sort of weapon of any kind.
Yeah.
And he was, a grizzly was charging him with her cub was there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And he would tell this story about how and his niece is behind him. And so he's spraying 1 can and the grizzly's coming straight at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, shit. Pulls out the next can, runs out, and literally at the last second, I guess she just veered off.
Dude,
right.
I've heard those stories. A friend of mine that I worked with, like, oh God, 3 people went out. Like, we were all like 19 at the time. A couple of dudes went out on a hike. I think there were like 2 or 3 of them, and they got really high and sort of like separated. They didn't mean to. They just sort of wandered off, and one of the guys got really lost. And he had a can of bear spray, that pepper spray. That stuff is like super potent. And a bear came out and approached him, and he freaked out and pulled out the pepper spray and went to spray it and sprayed himself directly in the face.
Oh, shit.
and it knocked him out.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was out cold. And
he was alone?
Yeah, he was alone. And he woke up and there was like bear prints and tracks all around him. Like it was sniffing him.
Oh, wow.
So, folks, bears are real. Okay, bears are the real deal. So back to how like my drinking started there. So I was like a pretty straight-laced kid growing up. I didn't want to get into any trouble. The trouble to me had like serious consequences. Like in abusive ways, physical, mental, emotional, a lot of rage. There's a lot of rage and violence, not directed, well, some directed at me, but just in general. I've seen a lot of wild shit. But I was very confused, and I never felt like I really ever fit in. And I never was really given the opportunity at a young age to kind of like explore who I am. So I just tried to follow the rules, do whatever my parents said, and be a good kid. And I never got in any trouble. And when I left home at 18, like I didn't go to college because there's no fucking way I would have been prepared for it. I was like way too naive and underprepared for like life. So I get to Glacier, have that drink, and like everything melted away. And I felt like fantastic from it. I was like, I felt tall and I was funnier. And it was like this elixir to solve what I thought was wrong with me. And then pretty soon it just became like my identity. And, after a while, the anxiety and everything kept building up and building up, and I was drinking more and building up. And pretty soon, like the drinking itself caused a lot of this anxiety, and I popped. And it took a long time after that to really get down to the nuts and bolts of it. And what it was is I thought I was like, there was something wrong with me, and I thought I was like broken and different and just like, I wasn't meant to be a part of this world. And then I found out, about all this trauma that I experienced and how that really, it affected so much of me. And I wasn't sure, what to do with it. I didn't know what to do. So I got really angry. I got depressed. I basically had like a 3-year nervous breakdown.
Well, not while you're still in Glacier.
No, that was here. Actually, I got sober in Chicago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was like not that long ago, honestly. So like, even when you and I were going to be spending time together, mm-hmm. I was like in the middle of like a full on meltdown. And I could not put my finger on like why this happened. And that's just kind of how I have to get to things. And I've learned that you can never fully get the why something happens. You just have to learn how to accept things for what they are and accept people for who they are. But one thing that I did discover through it was that, my parents had really, really rough childhoods, and they went through a lot of trauma themselves. And what I didn't really understand at the time was that their trauma they didn't know they were doing it, but they were just gifting it right to my brother and me. And, I wanted to talk with you about that a little bit, about how even genetically, generationally, like trauma gets passed down from family member to family member to family member. And, like in your experience, what have you found that, is there like a common connection, meaning like the trauma that, let's say, a parent experienced, is that experience going to be kind of like put on that child? So whatever, something happened to this parent at a certain time in their life, and that experience traumatized them. Are they going to create a similar experience for their child to kind of pass that on to them, but not really know that they're doing it?
Unknowingly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So what do you find? Like, I mean, is that common? Does that happen a lot?
Without doubt. I think
Okay.
it happens. And I don't even know, I think you and I talked about this a little earlier. People don't even know that they had the trauma, or they don't see it as trauma.
Right.
Let alone their parents seeing it as trauma, because those are not conversations that
you don't have that. I can tell you those don't go well.
Well, they don't. And it's confusing. There's defensiveness. I did my best. And
yeah. Oh, I guess I'm just a terrible parent then. I don't know how many times I've heard that. It's like, Jesus, that's not what I'm trying to do.
No.
So with like, okay, so trauma and it being passed generationally, like one thing that I've kind of like decided to do is like on both sides of my parents, trauma for them, trauma the generation before them, and so on. And I mean, it just keeps going, and it's just been passed down and passed down and passed down and passed down. Like my cousins, I see it in my cousins, and I've seen it in their kids, and like I've seen some pretty gnarly shit go down with like my family members, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I like made a decision to myself that, I can't let this happen anymore. Like, like I'll stop it as much as I can, but like this cycle has to stop. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is like to help people understand, like, yeah, that shit happens, and it's okay that it happened, and it's okay that you feel bad about it. And, but the difficult thing, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, is like the acceptance. How do you get somebody to like accept and be okay with that happened to them? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you, I mean, is there something that you would recommend that person do to help them with that?
I mean, I think the number one thing is talking with somebody.
Yeah, right.
And trauma, a lot of the research shows that if you sorry, my chair is squeaky. Sorry.
Don't worry about it, man. We're not here to win an Emmy or whatever.
I mean, so in therapy, as a therapist, I'd love to think, and I say this to my clients, what we have in here, like it becomes very comfortable and we can talk about anything. Of course, I'm not sharing, but I want this for you in the world. I want you to be able to have these same conversations with people who you trust and who can create a safe space with you. And it can be more reciprocal, even, that you can both share and feel safe. And I do think that the conversation is where it starts. And so if a parent is not initiating that conversation with their child,
right,
they're certainly not modeling it. And a child quickly learns to not talk about it with anyone else because no one's talking about it. So the more you're around people who can talk about these things, the easier it is. And with trauma in particular, if you talk with somebody in the midst of trauma has occurred and will continue to occur in our lives, right? If you talk with someone in the midst of that, it does not haunt you the way it does if you keep it a secret.
Amen to that. So in terms of, this just popped in my head, like, okay, let's look at like kids that went through COVID. Okay. I don't even know how to like approach that with my kids. Like I know that it had an effect on them, one more than the other. And I wouldn't say that one of them is struggling, but they certainly are having like a hard time with certain things. And it's funny. One of them today, I was giving him a ride home. He was like, we were talking about you coming over, and he's like, well, maybe when I'm older, I can get a therapist. It might help me out. I'm like, well, I mean, shit, you can get one now if you need to. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay to talk about these things. And are schools doing anything about that? Are they leaving it up to like the parents to figure that out? And so then there's this kind of like disconnect and like, how dare you do that with my kid without my permission? So, I mean, I'm I don't know. I'm really concerned about like that generation of kids, like really having this crazy like disconnect emotionally. So if someone's disconnected emotionally, like, and that's, I guess, I don't know, for me, it was like denial. What helps a person kind of like connect the dots, like writing, talking? I mean, what's something safe somebody can do to kind of like get them to recognize that it's okay and to accept that, yeah, that happened, and it's all right that it happened. I mean, are there things that you do with your clients to help them get there?
I think the rapport building and patience and time. It's not. I mean, some people will come to me with their trauma, but often they come to me with other things, and then in our talking, we get to the trauma.
That's what happened to me. Yeah,
it makes sense because you need to build that safety and trust, and then they give you a bit, and then you're fine. You're not rattled. You're there with them. Okay, tell me more. Because that, again, is what you'd like to have in the real world. And it's just not so common because not everyone's comfortable talking about trauma.
Yeah, they aren't. How do we get them there?
I'd like to hope that we're headed in that direction, but it starts with you talking with your kids too. Right?
Yeah, no, I've like been incredibly open. I've been very open with my kids and about my addiction. And I'm like, Dad, have you ever done cocaine? I'm like, I have. And they're like, oh my God, how much? I'm like, enough. We'll leave it there. But in fact, you can ask me when I'm 90 and I will not admit, I won't tell you how much I did. Oh. It was a lot. You could say I had a problem. But and I have also been open with them about, my traumas. Like, I haven't been like detail oriented with it, but I've given them enough. And, it's the peers that concern me, even like, okay, peers with kids, peers with adults, like, how do you find somebody like, for me, like I mentioned all the time, like I got sober in AA, like that group setting, like you go, you show up and they welcome you. But trying to find that for trauma is really, really hard. And, are there like resources people can use to try and find like groups, or how do you do it?
Well, if you're looking for trauma specific support, absolutely. There are all levels of care. So there are intensive outpatient programs, partial hospitalizations. I think you start first with someone you trust and letting them know, even if you don't want to tell them the details of what's going on for you, sharing that you think you need some help, and do they have suggestions of someone you could talk with? It's very hard to jump right to programming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
so
intimidating.
It's, I guess it is. Yeah. Just being comfortable enough in yourself and with a person to say, hey, look, I need some help. And it's okay. Cause I very much grew up in an environment where like, you don't cry, you don't talk about your feelings, like, and you bottle it up and then it just comes out in rage.
It comes out in rage.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. So if, I feel like, and we kind of talked about this beforehand, was that like a lot of my addiction issues, I think are hereditary. Just there's generations of addicts and mental health issues on both sides of my family. So I think I was just kind of predisposed to it.
Did they ever talk about that growing up, though? I know you saw it.
I saw it, and not really. They would talk about like, oh, Uncle so-and-so, Jesus, like he's got it's kind of a mess right now. And so, having uncomfortable conversations with a just trashed adult when you're like 10 years old is very uncomfortable because you just don't understand what's going on. but what it did in my mind, and I used this as I got older, is it set like limits, right? A ceiling, like I'm just gonna have a really great time in my life, and I'm gonna be a fun guy, and I'm gonna party hard. I'm just not gonna get to the level of Uncle so and so. So that's kind of how it was like, have a good time, but like, just try not to get like, that person. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that too. But getting back to like, was it talked about? No, it wasn't really ever talked about. And my grandparents, my mom's parents, they were, your classic, like they would go off on like 2-week sprees and leave the kids home. And my mom is one of 9. She's the oldest girl. And so she ended up like basically raising a bunch of her siblings, like dirt poor, while her parents vanished and went off and did whatever they did.
Did she tell you those stories when you were growing up?
No, she did not. And, not, maybe now as they're older, they're more open about it, but like my aunts and uncles from that side don't really ever talk about it. What happened? I mean, I've heard some crazy shit. Like one night, my uncle woke up and I don't know, he was maybe early teenager, and he woke up to gunshots in the house, and he's like, what the hell's going on? So he went out, and my grandpa and grandma and like their number one drinking buddy were so smashed that they were shooting the panes out of the kitchen window, like trying to find out who was the best shot. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, that was something. I'm like, yeah, I bet that one did a number on you, man.
But he just talked about like no big deal.
Like no big deal. Like, here's a funny story for you. Let me tell you something. And I like to share those in like humorous ways, like my crazy stories. But I usually like share them within the context of like, my addiction and alcohol and how that affected me. And I'm getting at, I guess, that, people don't want to talk about mental health. They don't want to talk about addiction. Addiction is seen still in our society as like a sign of weakness, especially men. And that goes, it's getting better, but for mental health, like nobody wants to talk about it. And that's, part of like what I'm hoping to accomplish, by this little project, is putting all this crap out there and be like, yeah, you can talk about it. It's okay.
And you don't always, I think it's because you are so funny. I think that was one of the things I said intimidated me about doing this, because I mean, I could sit and laugh and listen to you the whole day, because you're very funny and your delivery, and you can talk about hard things and be funny. And one thing that sometimes I will do in therapy, because my clients are hilarious too. They're so funny. And oftentimes I'll have to stop them and say, they'll tell me traumatic things and then make it funny.
Yeah.
And I'll say, well, can you tell me that without laughing?
No.
And it's a whole different conversation. It's very hard.
It is. It's really hard, because that I found out, I don't know, when I was like in 7th grade, I found out that like humor was my secret weapon, and that's how I got through everything. And, my psychiatrist, see, I'm laughing now. Mm-hmm. My psychiatrist, he's like, man, I can't ever get a read on you, dude. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, because you're always fucking smiling. It's like, you tell me things are going okay. You tell me certain things maybe not going okay, but I don't know how honest you're being, because you're smiling the whole time. And that's my defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I try not to use it as my defense mechanism. I've tried to use it as like a life skill. Like, how I can be dropped into a room anywhere at any time, and I can start a conversation. Mm-hmm. I just have this ability to do it. And I think a lot of that is a defense mechanism. I think that's how I honed it, was because I was so afraid and so timid and so freaked out that if I just be funny, nobody's going to really know what's going on with me.
Well, and it's so fun because it's so funny.
No, it's
But because it's not, it's, I think the defense mechanism, I don't know that that has a negative connotation. I think it's truly a strength.
Yeah.
And maybe defense mechanism is still a strength, right? And it is so helpful to others because it lightens the mood and it helps them feel more comfortable. And so it's also a very caring thing. It's not just being defensive. You are also very aware of people's moods, I would imagine, and can read that. And you don't want to be the one to cause pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to that point, like, let's look at, like, okay, society. So, I mean, comedians are a fucking mess. They're incredible artists and very funny, but they are in so much pain. And like one person in particular that like really helped me through a lot of shit in my life was Robin Williams. And I listened to a lot of his comedy and it just really hit me. Like I was like, I get this. And I kind of emulated him a lot in a lot of ways. And then when he died in the way that he did, taking his own life, people are like, what the fuck, man? And it's like, you don't like, people that have that gift are 99% like not doing well. And that is what they have to get through their life. That's what they use to, shield themselves from judgment. That's what I would do. I used it to like shield myself. It was like a defense, but it was like a shield. Like if I'm going to be, I can be this way and you won't get to me,
Can you imagine telling it without being funny? Anything?
I can now. Yeah, I can. And I've done it a few times and it's kind of fucked people up, quite honestly.
People you care about or randoms?
Just no, like, friends that I've become close with. They're like, so man, like what happened, And I'm like, do you really want to know? And they're like, yeah, I really want to know. I'm like, okay, here we go. And at the end of it, they're like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, well, I mean, this is what I'm getting at. Like, if you want to know, I'll tell you because it's important for people to know that like I present myself in a certain way. And I that's what I do because I don't want you to know like how vulnerable I am and how like much, pain I've suffered. But if you want to know, I'll tell you.
Do you think that hurt the relationship or strengthened it?
I think it strengthened it. It took them some time to kind of like sift through it and then just be like, shit. But also, when I told people, whatever the gory details, however I want to frame it, the truth, like, details of what took place in certain occasions, it really, I wouldn't say that it like upset them so much. I think it made them look at me differently. And maybe it made them uncomfortable and then made them maybe feel sorry for me.
Or have compassion.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me, again, being like, I don't want your sympathy, but compassion would be nice.
I mean, what's the difference in your mind? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a big difference. Okay. I don't know if we'll get there, but we might. To that point, though, is that, maybe some time has passed, a couple of days, a week or whatever, and they come up to me and they're like, I'm really happy that you shared that with me because, I realized that, there was a thing that happened to me and it's causing me issues and, and then they'll just proceed to like dump it on me. And I'm like, cool. All right. You good?
Nice.
Okay, let's keep it going. Yeah. And then, but other times I have found that, I'll just drop a nugget out there of, something trauma related, some experience. And the other person will pick it up and be like, oh yeah, well, I guess what happened to me. And then we kind of have like this session of back and forth. And it's like, okay, cool. I needed to know that. I needed to know that there's someone in my vicinity, in my circle, if you will, that understands me. And that's what I harp about so much. Harp, it's not the right word, but I try to express a lot in this podcast is that you can't do any of this alone. None of it. It's great when you have multiple people that understand you, but even having just that one that you see enough just to be like it, you need that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the things that comes up in sessions for most everyone I work with is not wanting to rely upon anyone for help.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? That's a loaded question.
Lots of reasons.
Is there one thing that comes to your mind though, that you find that is more common than others? Is it like a low sense of self, maybe?
Well, there's the inner critic is loud.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, the imposter. That's a big one.
The imposter is there. You certainly don't want anyone to know that there's ever anything that's hard for you. Because their life is easy for them. So.
Oh yeah, because life is easy for them, and I don't want them to think that I really don't belong here. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm gonna fuck this up because I don't belong here. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I worked with adolescents, it was crazy. I would have, I was North Shore, Chicago, and I would have someone in my office. They would leave, and then the next client would come in. They would see them leave, and they'd sit down, and they'd be like, "She's in therapy." I'm like, "Yeah, why?"
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Her life's perfect. Just
yeah. No, it's not.
And it's not. And there was this. I would always say, like, I would, and I still say it to this day. I want all of my people to have group together.
Yeah.
Especially back then, because they were going to school together, and they had no clue. But then there was this sudden, connection of even if we never talk about it.
Yeah, like I know that about you. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, in a pinch, I could like come to you.
Well, that's at least I won't judge you.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah,
like, and that's man. It makes me one thing that I have really come to understand, and in I don't know. I've dug so deep, and I've written so many things down, and I've studied so much about like trauma and abuse and mental well-being that I feel like I can see a lot in other people now. Mm. Like I recognize, speech patterns or actions or reactions to anything that I like recognize in myself. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like they're not doing good. And it's usually the people that you think that have their shit together.
Almost always.
Yeah. And do you have clients like that present themselves to be what they're truly
all
not?
Of my clients have their shit together. They're amazing people, like incredible people. And I'm like, who wouldn't want to be you,
Wow.
But their inner critic is
just tearing them apart.
Happy to like keep them down, and it's really true. I mean, there's not a client I worked with that I haven't truly admired.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, and it's not, I'm not just saying that. I'm being honest.
No, I know you are.
Like, I have the best job in the world. Well, no, don't really do that.
I'm kidding.
Because I care deeply for these people, and I'm just in awe at, first of all, the hard work they're doing to better understand themselves and to feel better in the world.
Right.
Despite the inner critic who's like, "You're an idiot. Why are you here? Mm-hmm. You're a piece of shit."
I dealt with a little bit of that this morning.
Okay. Oh, do you want to talk?
It just, that's like my big thing is the inner critic. That's like I have a master's or PhD rather in self-criticism and like really treating myself like shit. Like that's my default.
How's that working for you, Jim?
Oh, fuck.
That's tough.
It's tough, but I have gotten better with it. And I now have gotten to a point where I recognize it. And, I can can take the space where I can take the time and be like, all right, just chill the fuck out. And, you know, if you need to feel it for a second, feel it for a second, but like, let's try and find out like, you know, it's almost cliche, but like take this negative and turn it into a positive. So what can I do to, you know, what can I take from what is making me feel like shit and use it like, and feel good. Okay. That thing happened and it made you feel like crap. And, you know, okay, well, it happened. So what are we going to do now? And it's like, I can be better from it. And that can excite you. But that took so fucking long to get to that point. And a lot of people give up before they get to that point. And that's like, that makes me very sad. One, you know, a big thing in recovery, you know, we always talk about like, you take away the drugs or the alcohol, right? Because those are just the symptoms to the problem. They aren't the actual problem. Mm-hmm. They just let you know something's going on.
It's the solution.
It's the solution. I got a solution for you. And, you know, I see this a lot that, you know, people take away the booze, the drugs. And for like a year, they're like, fuck, man, I did it. But by like year 2 or year 3, they're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And
because of things they're thinking about that they weren't before.
And they're feeling their emotions for the first time in who knows how long. Right. Because, you know, you kind of stunt yourself a little bit with these substances that you put in your body, depending on what age you were when you started, you kind of have to play catch up. Like, you know, you're a 30-year-old person, but you kind of have the mentality of like a 13-year-old. And it's like, well, why is that? It's because you stunted your emotional growth at that point because you couldn't handle your emotions. So you had to push it all down and not feel it. And now you have them, right? And all these resentments and weird shit start coming out. And you're like, well, I can't, what the fuck is wrong with me? And, you know, I see people struggle with that so much. And I don't know what to do about it, you know? And it, you know, is up to them to figure it out. But it's a lot of reasons why people just never can make it. And, I don't like, what can we do?
Well, it's because I'm trying to imagine, because it's even interesting to hear you talk about yourself and it's the facade, right? I don't think I've ever interacted with your inner critic.
No.
So that makes it tricky, right? Because you do, I mean, just listening to your podcast, I told you it's brilliant. And I love listening to it. Like you can hold conversations about really hard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's still that stupid shit that I do, you know? And it's levels of like self-sabotage. And I'm like, how do I fucking stop doing this? You know?
What you can't, I don't know. We're talking, what? And maybe you can't say I can't, it's hard.
No, a lot of it was like when I was drinking. So, like I would, something big the next day was going down and I would just get fucking annihilated the night before because I couldn't handle it. And now I will find myself, planting seeds like that where I'm not going to be drinking, but maybe I'll just be thinking differently. Maybe I'll become maybe I'll just turn into an asshole because I can't handle my emotions. And so it makes me uncomfortable. When I get uncomfortable, I get really angry, and then my anger turns into rage, and then I just fuck everything up.
God, and in the in-between time, are you ever talking to anybody about any of this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've done hours and hours, like months of therapy over it. And, you know, I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty self-aware about these things. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my subconscious is still my subconscious, right? We all have that, and we got to cut ourselves some slack because, you know, we sometimes do shit that we don't know we're doing.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
all the time. Like it happens with you.
Oh my
right?
God. Yes, absolutely it does. There's so many ridiculous things. But I don't know. I talk with people
Yeah.
And you do too now.
Yeah, I do. And it helps. And it's great if it's a professional. It really is. But even, here's something that I've thought about. And I'm not getting on any soapbox here. I have my own issues with organized religion. Where I'm going with it, though, is like you can join a church, and there's the fellowship that happens at a church, and that fellowship can be very, very important. You don't have to necessarily listen to the messages that are being told. That's you can, or you can, or you don't have to. But just having somebody that you feel comfortable with to talk openly about these things, like. I don't know how to find a therapist. Okay, cool. That's no problem. Have you thought about going to a church?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
and well, it doesn't cost you any money. Mm-hmm. You don't have to listen to what they're saying. Somebody's going to come up and talk to you. And you could just say, look, I'm here because I'm in a lot of pain and I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a perfect stranger. And they're going to be like, well,
this is awkward.
This is awkward, but let me go get the guy up there.
I mean, you could also go into Psychology Today.
It's fantastic.
It's a great search engine. You can do every filter under the sun.
Yeah, you can. Psychology Today, people. Check it out, okay? They're not paying me to say it, but they should. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I've spent fucking hours on that.
And if you don't like the first person, that's okay. There's so many. And now with telehealth,
you can do it anywhere. I'm like out in the parking lot doing it in my car. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so the self-critic and the self-sabotage. Jesus.
You just did it again.
Yeah.
You just criticized yourself.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm like, I do it all day long. All day long.
Do other people, is there anyone in your life who hears it?
No.
How come?
I don't know.
Maybe that's the thing that needs to be shared without laughing.
Oh God, here we go. Can I? No, people don't. They don't. I don't think that they pick up on it.
Well, it's not their responsibility to pick up on it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So of course they're not going to notice. Yeah. And it's, it's funny. You're totally putting me on the spot, but
sorry.
No, it's great. No, this is good. This is good. This is good. People are going to want to know. It's because, they can listen to somebody talk about it and be like, oh yeah, that's relatable. That's like a part of my self-awareness that I haven't gotten to yet. And I think, going back to the subconscious, I think that I don't want to. And I would say to that, the reason I don't want to is out of fear. And fear drives a lot of my just energy. It's a lot of fear-based. And I have told people, and, I stopped, I'm like, there's certain things that I'm afraid of. And they're like, well, what's one of them? I'm like, I'm afraid of being happy. And they're like, what do you mean? Because I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to handle the emotions that go along with being happy, because I grew up in an environment where everything was very negative and painful, and like being in turmoil is like a security blanket for me. And to not have that, I don't know how I would be able to, accept it or process it. And fear of success. Like, I know that I'm really good at certain things that other people aren't, but I never pursued it. Even, now I kind of sort of am. I'm kind of like, getting into it, but I never pursued it because I was afraid that I would be good at it and I wouldn't know how to handle that.
If I didn't know how to handle it, what would happen?
Oh, I would like fuck it up. I would just like have a meltdown. I wouldn't know how to it would, like, the emotion of like happiness or success, or how they're kind of intertwined. It would be like a wall, and it would be so foreign to me that I wouldn't know what to do. And I think now I'm finally at a place that I can kind of be like, all right, you can do it. And it's okay to feel that way. Like, you've earned it. laughing.
Right.
But yeah, that's a big thing. And is a fear of happiness, a fear of success. And I know I'm not alone with that. A lot of people out there, and I think people that are even listening to this can relate to the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, I think, is society driven. We're very much go, 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 work hard, work hard, work hard, play hard. And the only way you can be successful is if you achieve a certain status. And, well, how do you do that? You just fucking work hard, man. Like, oh, okay. So I tried to do that, and I'm like, this just isn't me. This isn't me. Like, going to a work every day, sitting in office is not me. Like, this does not bring me any happiness. But this is what I'm supposed to do because that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a load of shit. It's a load of shit. My parents didn't give a lot of advice. My dad told me one time that this was the hand we were dealt, and this is the people that we are. This is who we are.
That messaging is powerful.
Oh, fuck, man. Yeah. And stuck with me. I was like, all right, well, fine. This is who we are. Mm-hmm. We're the perceived unlucky ones, and we're not supposed to succeed. We're not supposed to be happy. We're just supposed to bust our ass and, try and, have some fun along the way. But life fucking sucks for people like us, and there's nothing we're going to do about it.
Have you heard that? Gosh, I'm not going to tell this correctly, but like if you were to put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, you'd never have to put a lid on top.
Yeah.
Because as soon as one gets to the top, another grabs and pulls it back down.
I've seen it happen. Yeah.
So it's the same idea.
It's the same idea.
Without the intention of pulling you down, but just telling you that's where you belong.
Yeah. We're down here. Yeah. And I see that a lot too. And I don't know if I'm like, I might be too much of an empath, that I can really pick up on that shit with people, and it like upsets me. And, I'm like, well, what can we do about it? And it's like, I don't know what we can do about it. You can only do it for yourself. Right. So, but yeah, that's like my inner critic is the big thing. Like, something, somewhat negative happens. It's like, oh, well, yeah, fuck yeah, man. You deserve that. Like, you had that one coming. You're surprised.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Would you ever say that to your kids?
No. In fact, I try to use my experience with that feeling and impart on them. Like, you really don't need to feel that way. Like, things happen, mistakes happen. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, if you feel bad about it, it's fine to feel bad about it, but don't obsess over it. Like, you gotta experience it, feel it, move along. Mm-hmm. And you really can do anything you want. Mm-hmm.
And you say that to yourself now too?
Oh no. No. You kidding me?
Did you ever in therapy do like what would I say to my younger self?
Oh yeah, I did. It was powerful. It was very powerful. But it was really, really hard. It was really hard because, the things that happened to me were about suppressing me and like keeping me in line, and, I was kind of like an experiment for somebody. Yeah. In terms of like, I am curious what would happen to a human if we did this.
Okay.
And that was fun. That really like set the tone for a lot. Right. So, it's that, I had it hard. It was fucked up. You're going to be fucked up. Get used to it. And, oh God, and so many people that I've known in my life are like that. They're like that. And it's just getting passed down and passed down and passed down. And they're so fucking angry, right? But they don't know what they're angry about. So they project it onto other things.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, look where we are. Not to be political, just saying, y'all.
no. It's true. It's playing out everywhere.
No, it is.
And there are places where it's not. People are having a good conversation.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's all of it boils down to like, just, it's okay to have a conversation. It's okay to disagree. It is, right?
In fact, it's a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea to disagree, because then you get some stuff done. And it's okay to disagree with yourself, because then you can get some work done, right? It's okay to, like, for me, I'm saying this like for people to listen to, but I'm also kind of saying it to myself, like, you're treating yourself like shit. Like, okay, stop it. It's okay that you did that, right? But you don't have to do it.
Well, okay. So are you able to like feel in your body what your inner critic does?
Oh yeah.
What does it do? Like, describe your inner critic.
Oh, cool. It's funny. I did this once with another therapist, and it sits right here in the center of my chest.
Okay.
And it was like kind of like Iron Man is what we were talking about. But yeah, it sits here in my chest, and it just gets like red hot.
Yeah. It's temperature.
Yeah, it's temperature. It's just real fucking hot. And for those of you out there that feel that too, it's all right that you have it. Just kind of like, maybe don't treat yourself so bad. But yeah, that's what mine is. Mine gets like, I get really fucking hot.
It just spreads.
Yeah, but it's always right here is where it goes, and then it goes everywhere.
So can you feel it right now if you think about it? And can you describe what the absence of that feels like?
Oh yeah, that's the uncomfortable part.
Oh, I didn't expect that, Chad.
Yeah, that goes back to the fear of success and happiness. Like when I don't have that, I don't know what I'm feeling. It's like, okay, I'm going to drop you in the woods, and you got to figure it out.
Jeez.
Okay.
It's terror.
It's absolute, like, just so much fear and terror.
The opposite, or the absence, is what you feel. What's the opposite feeling of that then?
The opposite feeling of that is it's heaviness, it's a weight, but it's also kind of like a dull feeling, almost like you've numbed something. When you get like not anesthesia, but you get like they put like a local on your arm to give you a shot. Like, that part of your arm is still there, but you really can't feel it, but you just know it's there, and it has like this weird kind of dull feeling. That's what it feels like.
The opposite.
The opposite. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I can really go down in the weeds on this one, but yeah, I mean, that was the mission of this person in my life, was to take all of that away from me. And they did. And they started when I was about like 3 years old. And anytime something good was going for me, just take it away. And then I was left with nothing. And that's just what I lived with. And, I just accepted that I was never going to be better than anyone else. I didn't deserve to get what I wanted, because when I got it, it was just going to go away anyway.
So in any time in your life, did you ever feel good about having something? Was there early on, did you know what it felt like?
I can't think of anything.
No.
Yeah.
Because you soon learned it wasn't safe to let that feeling exist,
let
alone be known.
Yeah. And then our house burned down and we lost everything. So literally I had nothing emotionally, and then I had nothing like physically. I just had a shirt and a pair of pants I was wearing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild, but I'm not alone with this. There's a lot of people out there that have these same emotions.
Right.
And Jesus, it's okay to have them. I just don't know. don't know how to guide, like suggest to people what to do with it, you know?
Well, and I think that's kind of like, so the picture back there that you said.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
What does it feel like to look at that?
See, that brings me joy.
Okay, tell me what that feels like.
Yeah, well, that is, it kind of like fills me with excitement because that place in particular, it's for those of you out in Oregon, shore acres, to you coasties, that's where I would go and sit and I would calm myself down because you look out over the ocean and it's vast and it looks like it never ends. And you understand just how small and trivial you are in the grand scheme of things. Right. And that would calm me down. Like, okay, all right. So all these things that I'm feeling really don't matter necessarily. Right. Like I just am. And then that would bring me like some peace. Right. I'd be like, okay, cool. I can work with that. Like I just am, and I can build on top of that. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, like it was gone because it was taken away. Mm-hmm. So yeah, looking at, I mean, that's why it's here. That's why I got that picture, is because it gives me like peace.
Where do you feel it? What's it like?
Actually, I feel it like right here in my heart. Yeah, it's weird. You know, it sounds cliche, but it's like, it is. It's right there.
But it's not where the heat was. What is there a temperature or lightness?
It's just like room temp. You know, it's a lightness is what it is. It just is like calming. It's like peace.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice that you have that imagery. Because really, you're just showing that all of these feelings can exist and they actually all do matter.
Yeah, that's true. They do.
And we don't need to push one out just to make space for the other. We can access them anytime. You can access that feeling anytime you want.
That's true. You can't. Yeah, like the good feeling. We just mentioned the good feeling. Yeah, I don't see. I think for me, it was a lot of like instant gratification. Like I needed that fix. I needed that, like that bag of Doritos, that piece of chocolate. And I still have that where I'm very impulsive, and it mostly is like with food. Like that's my thing. And I know a lot of people, they do that. It's the impulse. I think that for me anyway, that, you know, I'll go down the rabbit hole in my head, whatever it might be, you know, again, the self-critic, the imposter syndrome. And then pretty soon I'm feeling shitty. And then it's like you spiral and then you do something impulsive, right? You know, we joke about in some meetings like, yeah, my God, last night, fuck, man, I ate an entire sleeve of saltines. And we're like, wow, how'd that go? But to a point about, you know, talking to other people, having other people around you that can relate to you, is like, that is a great warning. That's a great reminder. Like if I start feeling badly about myself, I could end up doing something that I'm going to feel really shitty about the next day. Mm-hmm. You know, like I might eat that entire box of Oreos and wake up the next day and just kind of hate myself for it.
You talk about the spiral. Have you heard of the book, The Upward Spiral?
I don't think so.
It's a really good book. And it talks a lot about the brain science behind how we feel. But it talks about how the thing that I really like to talk with my clients about is how it's really easy to feel depressed.
Oh my God.
It doesn't take any effort to be depressed.
No,
right?
It doesn't.
Like it's the simplest, easiest thing in the world. And so, and in part they've shown because they're just grooves that we've developed. Like there could be a trigger that sets you there. It could be anything, right? And then you just sit there and slide down the slope and don't have to worry. And it takes a lot of work to feel happy, right? And no one thinks that's true. Like people, they're just happy. They do things that help them feel happy.
Right. Self-care.
And one of the easiest things is doing the thing you said you're going to do is one of the easiest ways to rebuild the path.
Procrastination is my middle name. I mean, it's a problem. And
that's a downward slope.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
And then being realistic about what you plan to do.
Yeah. But you know, one thing that I've started to do at work is like making a list, but sometimes I'll like, do tasks. And then like sometime later I'll write out my list, but I'll write out the things that I've already done. And so when I finish my list, I go back and then just cross them off. And then by looking at it, it's like, okay, all right, I've gotten some things done.
Good technique.
Yeah, a little cheat.
Yeah.
But the happiness thing. Now, there was something that my friend Missy said in one of the conversations we had, and I'm going to fuck this up, but it was, don't compare your insides to someone else's outsides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like self-comparing is a dangerous, dangerous place to go. What do you have like suggestions for someone, like if they find themselves like just constantly comparing themselves to everyone around them? I mean, what do you do to stop that?
Well, of course, this is going to, people are going to tune out. I think in this era, social media is, I hate it. It's the worst.
It's fucking awful.
So that creates a whole different dynamic. So a lot of the people I work with, a lot of the comparison comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they're closer in-person relationships that they have developed, which has taken time, feel safer, and there's less comparison.
Okay.
But the comparison is a lot about the inner critic too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the insecurities.
And then so having information about all these people that you don't even know or care about on top of it just fuels your inner critic.
Sure does.
Right?
It really does. And I'm, my friend Melissa brought that up. She's in her early 30s and she works with a lot of adolescents and teenagers. And that's like the big problem. She's like, I hate to say it, but it's social media is like really fucking everybody up.
What is it? I always discover these things. I had someone the other day tell me they were really happy. Have you heard of JOMO, the joy of missing out, instead of FOMO?
Oh, no, JOMO. I don't know JOMO. I know FOMO.
Mm-hmm. Right, FOMO. And then so JOMO is the joy of missing out, which is really, it's also a social media thing because I didn't grow up in that era, but
our children are.
And so I had a 20-something-year-old mention how they were so happy. They stayed in on a Friday night, and they're always going and doing things all the time. They're exhausted. They loved every minute of it. They're off of not Netflix. They're off of
whatever,
Instagram, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, did it help to not be scanning through and seeing what everyone else is doing? They're like, well, yeah, that's one thing. But actually, it was also nice that I didn't feel like I had to deliberately go and do something that I could post, which is wild to think of how it works in that direction too. Right?
I have to make sure I'm doing something that I can put out there to make sure that people perceive me being somebody that I'm not.
Which completely takes you out of the equation.
Oh my God.
It's all about what other people see.
Yeah.
So taking themselves off of that really helped them just truly enjoy themselves,
Yeah, you get to like know yourself a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's going to be.
But I don't know if does that influence you in comparing yourself to others, or because
sometimes, yeah. I mean, I definitely like. I'm more like a voyeur with social media. Excuse me. Since I've started doing this, I've kind of been more active sort of like for promotion, and I'm really bad at like self-promotion. Like, it's out there, go watch it. And it's like, you got to remind people that it's there. And unfortunately you have to do that a lot through social media, but I do use it for like basically like voyeurism, but I don't necessarily compare myself to other people, but I mean, I do, but not necessarily like people that I know or peers. It will be like somebody that's doing this. Like I'm just listening to a lot of different varieties of podcasts because I'm really having a lot of fun with this. And I kind of think I can maybe make something of this. Mm-hmm. So I will listen to other people and I'm just like, oh, fuck, man. I'm never going to sound that good.
Oh, what in the world?
And, oh my God.
I mean, at least it keeps you grounded and it hurts you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so stupid. I know it. I know that. And then I listen back to myself and I'm like, I think you're doing fine, but I'll hear something and or something that I'll listen to, and I was like, holy shit, man, that was like fucking terrible, but like people are listening to it. Like, why are they listening to that and not to me? That one's a big one.
I've been so engaged in your podcast, not just because you're a friend. I have enjoyed all of those stories.
Thank you. I mean,
I know that's not what the point of this is, and I want you to know that.
Well, thank you. Actually, here's a thing for me. I've gotten a lot better, but receiving a compliment, mm-hmm. Oh my God, I can't do it.
I see that. I've noticed.
I can't do it. I'm really good at giving compliments, and I'm sincere in the compliments because I work very hard to notice something about somebody and then make a point to like compliment that.
So can you say without laughing or being funny the reason you don't like to take compliments?
Yeah, it is the joy. It's like feeling joy, feeling good about myself.
And that doesn't feel good?
No, it doesn't. It freaks me out. And I go into like a tailspin. I mean, I've had some people pay me some incredible compliments that have just like fucking messed me up. And okay, here's one. I was on Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, cool. So we did the show, and they cut out a lot of stuff, which I get. But there was like a lot of banter that was going on that I was involved in, and it was really working. And I don't know. I think it was my defense mechanism. I'm really excited to be at this. Like, I never anticipated being on a game show, so I was just there, sort of on a lark. I'm like, well, fuck, I'm here, so I might as well have a good time with it, right? And so we go backstage, and they're taking the mics off and everything, and the producer comes up to me and he's like, "Man, that was so fucking good. Like the banter and you, like that was super. It was really great. Like, good job." Mm-hmm. And I went out and got hammered.
Oh,
yeah. It was fun, but that was like somebody was really sincere in like recognizing what I was trying to do, and they were like, "That was a good job. You really did a good job," and I couldn't take it.
Because getting hammered did what?
I don't know. I don't know, kind of brought up the chaos.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it was self-sabotage. It wasn't like one high led to another. It wasn't, no. I'm feeling so good about what they just said.
Yeah. It was like, I'm feeling so good about what they said. And then instantly I'm like, but you can't do a fucking thing with that.
Oh, Chad. Whose voice is that? So that's the other thing. Is that voice came from well, maybe you can't say. I don't know.
Oh, I can tell you. I mean, I even sound like the person when I say that. Mm. Yeah, that was my brother. Mm. Yeah, he took a lot from me. Mm. And it's interesting that we got here. I was like, am I going to do it? Am I going to talk about him? But I will. And yeah, so circling back to like the beginning of what we were talking about and how, people they're born and they develop a certain way and chemically, mentally, what happens, like their brain develops in a certain way and that's who they are. And so they have this brain, but then they have circumstances and environment, right? That through those, it creates this personality and it creates this thing. And, that what the circumstances in my brother's brain, all of that created who he was, and what he was at that time was fucking awful. He was a monster. And, he did lots of bad things, and I've told him and he's admitted to it. So this is not, I'm not talking out of turn here. But he just took it away and took it away and took it away and took it away. And then they would put me in like a lot of physical pain along the way. And so I think, now that I'm talking about it, that if I were to succeed at something, okay, it would hurt incredibly bad, not only emotionally, but like physically, something as bad is going to happen to me. Like he would twist me up and put me in all these weird positions until I would scream. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. His favorite was to tickle me until I peed my pants. And then when I would scream, my mom would get mad. And so he figured out, well, I'll just put a pillow over his head. And so he would put a pillow over my head and like tickle me until I peed. And like, I was like suffocating. I thought I was going to die.
I felt panic just
yeah, and that's like just like a small thing. And sorry for those, I'll have to put a trigger warning on this, but that's what happened. And so when I feel these, like when people pay me like a truly sincere and honest compliment, not like, wow, I like the color of that shirt. Like that producer who knows what he's doing, recognized something that I did and paid me like a true compliment. My brain automatically went to like, well, I can't accept that because it's going to be painful. Like something fucking bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's the fear that comes with all of these things. And I know through conversations with other people that I'm not alone in that, that people struggle with that, and they find ways to counteract it by whatever talents they might have, right? Whether there's like sales or being an attorney or what have you, some professional way they're able to like, put that off to the side over here. But that really is like, maybe that's what's driving them. Like they're driven out of their own fear. And then when they reach the mountaintop, they don't know what to do.
I mean, it's what I was about to ask you that very question. Like in some ways, does it seem like your brother drove you to do more, to do better?
Yes, because I will say that now, that if, in a way I kind of have like started to thank him, like what you did was fucking horrible. It was horrible. But where I am now, like, I'm like kind of a tough motherfucker. Like, that did a lot for me, but now I'm doing this, and you doing that in a way made me do this. And what I'm doing here is probably helping someone else over there. So it's like this weird butterfly effect. And so, yeah, I've turned it into a positive. I mean, it was a long, long, long road to get to that. I was really angry for a very long time about it.
Understandably.
And, I have been thinking about him a lot. That I'm not sure what to do about that relationship. There's part of me that wants to like reconnect, right? Because I have deep love for that guy. He's my brother. I have like a sincere, deep love for him. And it's really conflicting because it's also like, but that guy just, there's so much resentment and anger, like just built into me based on what he did. So this is when here we go. This is a good one. So I think about him and I think about reconnecting. Makes me feel happy. I'm like
that happy?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I can somehow have like this, through all this shit, I'm able to like parse together a functioning relationship with my family. Like I can have these open dialogues with my dad now, where I couldn't before. I have the open dialogues with my mom that I couldn't before. But the last piece is my brother. And so I think about that and then I get real excited, right? Like I can, maybe I'm able to put it together and we can just, in some weird discombobulated way, we can all come together at one point and be like, well, that was fucking crazy, but here we are.
Oh, wow, Chad, I can totally feel that.
And then but then I get really angry at him because I'm like, you motherfucker, you know what you did to me. Like, so it's this weird, like, I don't know what to do with that, like, anger part of it. And that's where I'm like really challenged with it at the moment. And a friend of mine, it's like, you just got to write him a letter, man. And just say like, what you did to me did this, and this, and the other thing, because like, that's ultimately what's holding you back is that like anger towards your brother.
You may as well write it. You don't have to send it.
No, but I also kind of want to send it.
I mean, I have to go back to where you said, in some ways I need to thank him for where I am now.
Yeah.
Do you ever, maybe the person to thank is yourself?
True. Yeah.
Because
I did it.
Look where you're at despite that.
Yeah. Yes. To that though, I wonder if I would be able to deliver the messages that I'm delivering now to people without having those experiences. You know, like, okay, well, I can read a book. I can go to group. I can, recognize certain things in other people and be like, you know what, yo, I've kind of figured it out. And this is what I think we should all do. And it rings hollow for me. Like I can pick up on that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's like, no, I mean, look, I've heard some stories that were worse than mine, but I'm here to tell you, like, mine was no picnic, and it did a number on me. And through all of this work that I did, I did do the work. Yes, I did. And I do really need to give myself credit for that, for a lot of things that I've done. I know that. Also, though, like, if I didn't go through those things, I don't know if I would be the person that I am now. So, and that's part of like self-acceptance, self-awareness and self-acceptance. Like, all right, dude. Okay. Maybe in your mind, you fantasize or picture yourself to be a certain person that you're not, and like, but people seem to be thinking that you're doing all right and that, maybe you should give yourself a little credit. And that's so hard.
You're gonna have to listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Because you just said it yourself. You said if I hadn't gone through those things, I wouldn't be the person I am today, which means you like the person you are today.
I'm getting to like him. Yeah.
I'm getting to know him.
Yeah. And one thing that I also need to like, and people so I've created, so I'm doing this podcast and people seem to be really liking it, even though, yes, people are liking it. I'm getting a lot of good response from it. But I also started this men's group. I started off as like a sober men's group, and that's really what it is. It's for people that are getting sober, and it is sort of loosely AA based. But I started it 9 years ago, and it started off with just like 3 of us, and some nights it was just me up there. It's been on Thursday night for 9 years, and now it's like 25 people, and I've got guys zooming in from like New Jersey, and it's this like whole community.
I love it.
Yeah. But, this guy over here is like, man, these guys are going to get fucking tired of me and they're going to stop coming.
Oh, that inner critic. I was like, who?
Yeah. Yeah. But a few of my friends are like, well, you just fucking knock it off. Like you've done something really great here. Like you're the reason we're all here, so like give yourself some credit. Like I built a community. Right. Without even thinking about it. I just did it.
Well, and think about like, so you built a community and that wouldn't exist without everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So we all did this thing together.
Right.
And maybe back then you didn't feel the community. There wasn't an us. Was it just you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I just went into it that I was desperate, that I needed a group. And I didn't think about it. I just did it.
I mean, back when your brother...
You
didn't have anyone supporting you.
No, I didn't. Because, I couldn't tell the truth. That, here's a fun one. That, like, certain aspects of honesty are a real struggle for me. And it's difficult in relationships. And the reason why it's so hard is because when I was so young, like, bad, painful things would happen. And the message was like, don't ever tell mom and dad,
Yeah.
Then it was like, it got to like, don't tell mom and dad or I'll kill your dog, this kind of shit. So, and it kept going and going and going and going. And so then, like he basically like groomed me. And then as an adult, I was like covering up for him all the time and lying on his behalf. And, so now I have this like panic and like physical pain when I need to be honest about something. It's really weird. And it's really, really hard. And it frustrates other people. They're like, why can't you just fucking be honest? I'm like, because I'd rather not say anything at all. Right. Than go through what it's going to feel like for me to do it.
Wow.
because it's going to be fucking painful.
And in that situation, maybe the pain is because you hurt someone.
Could be.
If you're honest.
Yeah.
Oh, Chad.
Yeah, right.
So much there.
I
but
know.
At least you've identified that.
Yeah, but see, that can even be like on a work level. You know, it's weird. It's really weird, and it's like really challenging for me. So I've gotten a hell of a lot better about it, but it's still there.
Well, and you've had hard conversations at work. You've had to have.
Oh, I mean, I can have fucking hard conversations right now. Like between the conversations I've had with my mom and my dad, evicting people from their apartments.
Yeah.
You know, like let's sit down and chop it up. Like I will have that conversation now. Yeah, but still, like sometimes sharing my part in it, it's really hard for me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you're doing well. You know, I can sit here and praise. I know that's not what this is about.
Listener.
The conversation. I don't know. I'm just a huge believer in conversation.
Oh yeah, no, it's and see, that's what we're doing here. Like we're having a conversation about it. Like we started one way and we're here now, and it's like, you know, and that's why I try to do these like conversations with my friends and people. It's like, let's just talk about it.
In your meetings, like it's conversation.
Yeah, it's all talking.
And if we need to have a reason to get together and talk, then we'll create a reason to get together and talk. It could be therapy.
Yeah.
It could be coffee.
Yeah, these dudes are like, I'm just going to hold on until Thursday, and then I'm going to drop the bomb. And they're like, I can do that. And they wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't start it. Right? And
and you couldn't do that if they weren't there.
Right. Yeah. I know. It takes a fucking village.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I don't know. It's been great. It's been great. I'm not accustomed to talking so much. I could sit here and learn more.
Oh, so. Well, we can turn the mic off and I'll lay it on you.
I just think it's amazing what you're willing to share with others.
I think it's important. I think it's important to, somebody has to do it. So why not me? Right. And, I can tell a good story, and I know when to laugh and when not to laugh. Sometimes I laugh too much because I'm covering up. But yeah, it is important. It is important to have these conversations. It's important for people to hear it and to be okay with it. You know, it's what is like the slogan for my show? Not all there. No one has their shit together that much.
God, nobody is.
No one's all there, people. Okay,
no, your therapist included.
Yeah. Hey man, no shit. So I can tell you that. But yeah, I always say like it's okay to not be okay.
Yes,
it's perfectly fine. Like if somebody asked you like, how you doing today? And you responding, you know what? I'm not doing great today. That's okay.
Yeah. Have you heard of what it means to say I'm fine?
Oh, Jesus. No.
So you'll like this one then, Jed. Fine is feelings I'm not expressing. FINE. And it is so true.
I'm probably like the poster child for that. That's my, how you doing today, Chet? Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
See, there it was.
Yeah.
That was my pre-programmed answer. Fine. It's fucking great, man. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for doing this. This is...
Just don't say the other part of it.
I can always take that out. Anyway, this was awesome. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care. And there you have it. Do you need a cigarette after that? I haven't had a cigarette in years, but sometimes I have like a mental cigarette after that. But I tell you what, man, that was kind of intense, but in a good way. I really enjoyed it. I had fun with that. We did cover some pretty pretty heavy stuff, and I can assure you, somebody out there, one of you listening to this, can relate to some part of that, and it's okay. You know, if you treat yourself badly, which a lot of us do, the inner critic, the imposter syndrome, right, that we discussed, like that's a real thing that a lot of us are challenged with, and we put it to the side because that's just we don't function that way. We're not supposed to function that way. But it's okay, man, if you do have that. All right, it really is okay. You can get help for it. You can just talk about it. You can listen to this. You can reach out to me. I do have an email address, notalltherepod@gmail.com, notalltherepod@gmail.com. Even if you just need to write a letter to get something off your chest and send it, that's great. That'll help. If you need to do it, send it to me. That's great. It would help me probably too to read it. Go out there, people. Enjoy the day. Just take it by the horns and live the fuck out of it. All right? Just make it count in some capacity. It may start off rocky. That's okay. Learn from the rockiness and finish strong. Okay? Be kind and loving to others. That's very important, especially now. Especially now. Compassion towards others, no matter what. Find something to be compassionate about to someone else. All right? It helps. It really, really helps. Okay? Be kind and loving to yourself. Show yourself some compassion. God damn it, you're doing it. You're doing it. All right? It's congratulations. You're out there and you're living. You're making something count each day by getting out there in the world. Okay? Give yourself that big old hug because you fucking deserve it. Make it count. A big one. All right? Okay, I'm going to get out of here. Be kind and loving to yourself. Be kind and loving to others. All right? See you next time. Take care.